It was early October when they found the body. The kind of morning where the mist hangs low over Willow Lake, and everything feels quieter than it should. I remember standing on the porch with my coffee, watching the police lights blur in the fog like bleeding stars. At first, I thought it was another drunk fisherman, another accident. But when they rolled the stretcher past me, covered in a white sheet that clung to the shape of a face I almost recognized, my hands began to shake. Willow Creek, Michigan. Population, 2,304. The kind of place where secrets don't stay buried, they just learn how to swim. The news spread fast. By noon, the diner was full of whispers. Everyone wanted to know who it was. The waitress said it was a man. Someone middle-aged. Someone local. I pretended to listen casually, but every word hit me like a drop of cold rain. Because my husband, Mark, hadn't come home the night before. Mark Thompson. 49. Insurance adjuster. Sunday fisherman. The kind of man everyone called dependable. The kind of man who waved at neighbors and remembered birthdays. For 23 years, I believed I'd married the safest man in town. Until that morning, when the police knocked on my door. Detective Harris stood there, tall, weathered face, the kind of calm that only comes from seeing too much. "Mrs. Thompson," he said, "we found a body in Willow Lake. We believe it's your husband." I didn't cry. Not right away. Instead, something colder moved through me, like the water itself had entered my veins. Because I knew something the detective didn't. Mark had been lying to me. And not just about late nights at work. The night before he vanished, I'd found a second phone in his glove compartment. A cheap prepaid one. Full of messages from a woman named Elena. The last one read, "You promised you'd tell her tonight." That was 12 hours before they pulled him from the lake. When I told Detective Harris, he studied me carefully. "You didn't mention this at first," he said. "I wasn't ready," I replied. "Would you be?" He nodded, took the phone from me, and said they'd look into it. But I could tell by his tone, he already suspected me. Every word I said felt like a thread in a noose. By evening, the entire town had decided what happened. He was cheating, they said. She found out. And just like that, I became the story. The grieving wife turned suspect. I spent that night sitting by the window, watching the lake in the distance. The same lake where they found him. The moonlight made the surface shimmer, gentle and deceitful. That's the thing about water. It looks peaceful until you remember how easily it hides the dead. The next morning, I drove to Elena's address. I shouldn't have, but curiosity and fury can look a lot alike when your heart's been cracked open. She lived 20 minutes away, in a rented cabin at the edge of town. I knocked. No answer. The curtains were drawn tight. But as I turned to leave, I noticed something on the porch, a half-burned photograph. Mark. And Elena. Smiling. At our lake house. And behind them, barely visible in the background, Detective Harris. I didn't sleep that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that photograph, the one with my husband smiling beside a woman I'd never met, and behind them, the detective who'd stood on my porch pretending not to know either of them. I kept asking myself the same question: how long had they known each other? By morning, my stomach felt hollow. I couldn't decide if I was grieving my husband or the illusion of him. 23 years of my life felt like evidence in someone else's case. At 9 a.m., I drove back to Willow Creek Police Department, the photo sealed in a plastic sleeve I'd found in Mark's office. Detective Harris looked up as I entered. His eyes flickered, just for a second, when he saw what I was holding. "Where did you get that?" he asked. I placed it on his desk. Outside Elena's cabin. He stared at it in silence, his jaw tightening. Then he leaned back, folded his arms, and said quietly, "You shouldn't have gone there, Mrs. Thompson." "That's all you have to say?" I asked. "You were there. You were with them." His expression didn't change, but something shifted in the room. "I knew Mark," he said finally. "We went to high school together. I hadn't seen him in years until recently." He hesitated. That pause was too long. I said, "Until when?" "Until he came to me last month," he replied. "He said someone was blackmailing him." I felt my breath catch. Blackmailing him? For what? But he didn't answer. Instead, he slid the photo back toward me. "You should go home, Mrs. Thompson. This is already complicated enough." Complicated. That's what he called it. My husband dead. His mistress missing. The detective hiding pieces of the puzzle, and me, caught in the middle like the ghost of a marriage that no longer existed. I walked out before I said something I couldn't take back. Outside, The October wind carried the smell of the lake, cold, metallic, like rusted memory. By afternoon, the local paper printed the headline: "Local man found dead in Willow Lake, police investigating possible foul play." No mention of blackmail. No mention of Elena. No mention of Harris. I drove home and poured myself a drink. The house felt different now, quieter, like it was holding its breath. Mark's things were still everywhere: his jacket on the chair, his wallet on the counter. I picked it up, expecting it to feel heavy, but it was light, too light. His driver's license was missing. So was a folded check stub I'd seen the week before. The check was for $25,000, made out to cash. I remembered asking him about it once. He'd said, "Just work stuff, Claire. Don't worry." But I was worried now. Because $25,000 is a lot of money for a man who spent his evenings balancing grocery receipts. That night, I drove back to the lake. The crime scene tape still fluttered across the dock, pale yellow against the black water. I sat in my car and watched the ripples catch the reflection of the moon. And then I saw her. A figure on the other side of the lake, dark coat, hair tied back, standing still as a statue. Even from that distance, I knew it was her. Elena. I got out, my heart pounding. Elena. I called. She didn't move. For a moment, I thought she might walk toward me. Instead, she turned and disappeared into the trees. I ran, following the sound of breaking branches, my flashlight cutting through the mist. But when I reached the clearing, she was gone. Only the smell of damp earth and the faint sound of water lapping at the shore remained. And then I noticed something half buried in the mud, another photograph. This one wasn't burned. It showed Mark sitting in his office. Behind him, taped to the wall, was a calendar. The date circled in red, September 14th. The day he withdrew the money. And written across the bottom in Elena's handwriting: "You said no more lies." The next morning, I woke to the sound of rain against the window. It was the kind of steady gray drizzle that made everything feel slower, heavier, like the world itself didn't want to wake up. I sat at the edge of the bed, still holding the photo I'd found at the lake. My husband smiling in his office, a date circled behind him, and Elena's handwriting reminding me that everything I believed about my life had been a lie. I kept asking myself what he was hiding. What could be worth $25,000, 2 phones, and a secret affair? By mid-morning, I couldn't sit still anymore. I drove to Mark's office at Thompson and Reed Insurance, a brick building downtown that smelled like dust and old coffee. His desk had already been boxed up, but the cleaning lady, Marla, was still there. She looked startled when she saw me. "Claire," she said softly. "I'm so sorry. We all are." I thanked her, trying to sound composed. "I just need to pick up a few things of Mark's," I said. She nodded and left me alone. Mark's desk was neat, as always. Too neat. Every file perfectly aligned, every pen capped. But when I pulled open the bottom drawer, I found something wedged beneath a stack of folders, a small black notebook. No label. No initials. Just a rubber band holding it shut. Inside, it was filled with dates, phone numbers, and short, cryptic notes. August 22nd, call E, 10 p.m. August 27th, H, knows. September 14th, transfer complete. I turned the page and froze. There, in his handwriting, were 3 words that changed everything. Harris isn't clean. I felt the air leave my lungs. Detective Harris, the man investigating my husband's death, was part of whatever this was. Before I could process it, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. When I answered, there was silence at first. Then a woman's voice whispered, "Stop looking, Claire." "Who is this?" I asked, my voice trembling. "You don't want to know," she said. "Some debts are better left unpaid." Then the line went dead. I stood there in the empty office, heart racing. Whoever she was, she knew my name. She knew what I was doing. And she didn't sound afraid, she sounded certain. I copied the last few pages of the notebook and took them home. If Harris was involved, I couldn't trust the police. So I called someone else, Jake Miller, a journalist I'd known since high school. He'd left town years ago, but his number hadn't changed. He picked up on the second ring. "Claire? Jesus, it's been forever. I heard about Mark." "I need your help," I said. "I think someone killed him." He paused. "Do you have proof?" "Not yet," I said. "But I have a notebook. And a detective who's pretending to be clean." Jake sighed. "All right. I'm coming down tomorrow. Don't talk to anyone else until then." That night, I locked every door and kept the notebook under my pillow. The house felt colder than usual, the shadows longer. Around midnight, I heard a car stop outside. Headlights swept across the living room wall, then vanished. I waited. Nothing. When I finally drifted off, it wasn't rest, it was exhaustion. And in that uneasy sleep, I dreamed of the lake again. Of Mark standing waist deep in the water, his face pale, his eyes open, whispering something I couldn't hear. When I woke, the house was silent. But the front door was unlocked. I knew I'd locked it. I always did. On the table where the notebook had been, there was a single page torn out. Just one line left behind. If you want the truth, meet me at the lake. Midnight. And at the bottom, written in Mark's handwriting, was my name. I told myself I wouldn't go. That it was a trap. That whoever wrote that note wanted me to end up like Mark. But by 11:30 p.m., I was standing in the kitchen with my car keys in one hand and a flashlight in the other, arguing with a part of me that still believed the truth could save him. The road to Willow Lake was empty. Not even the sound of crickets. Just the steady hum of my tires and the low throb of fear pulsing in my chest. When I parked near the dock, fog rolled off the water in slow, ghostly ribbons. Everything was drenched in silver moonlight, quiet, still, deceitful. It felt like standing inside a secret. I waited. Midnight came and went. No one showed. But then I noticed something glinting near the edge of the dock, a metal flashlight half submerged in the mud. I picked it up. It was Mark's. His initials were scratched into the handle. When I turned it on, the beam caught something farther down the shoreline, a small wooden rowboat, tethered loosely to a post. Inside, a black duffel bag. I shouldn't have touched it, but curiosity is its own kind of gravity. I pulled it open. Inside were stacks of cash, bound with rubber bands. At least 20 bundles. And tucked between them, a folder labeled Client File, E. Morales. Elena. I flipped it open. Inside were insurance claim forms, accident reports, and one photo that didn't belong, an image of a car crash on Highway 12 from last year. A man had died. His name circled in red ink, Miguel Morales. Husband of Elena. Suddenly, it made sense. The affair. The money. The blackmail. Mark must have been helping Elena falsify the claim, paying her out from fake accounts. But somewhere along the line, someone wanted a bigger cut, or maybe someone got scared. And then I heard footsteps. I turned, flashlight cutting through the fog. Detective Harris stood a few feet away, his badge glinting faintly. "Mrs. Thompson," he said quietly. "You shouldn't be here." I stepped back. "You were part of this," I said. "The money, the blackmail. Mark wrote your name in his notes." He shook his head slowly. "You don't understand. He was in deep before I even found out. I tried to help him fix it." "By killing him?" His eyes flashed. "He called me that night, Claire. Said he was going to confess everything. He was scared, paranoid. I told him to meet me here so we could talk. But when I got here," he paused, voice lowering, "he was already dead." I didn't believe him. His calmness felt rehearsed. "Then why hide it?" I asked. "Why lie to me?" "Because I don't know who killed him," Harris said. "And neither do you. But whoever it was, they're still out there." Behind him, a twig snapped. We both turned. The sound came from the woods, slow and deliberate. Someone was watching us. "Stay here," Harris whispered, drawing his gun. He stepped toward the trees. I waited, 5 seconds, 10, 20. Then a muffled sound broke through the fog. A thud. A sharp cry. Silence. "Harris." I called. No answer. The fog thickened, swallowing everything but the faint ripples on the lake. I backed toward the car, heart hammering. Then I saw movement, a shadow by the boat. A woman's silhouette. Elena. She stepped forward, and the moonlight caught her face. Pale. Expressionless. "You shouldn't have come, Claire," she said. Her voice was calm, almost kind. "Mark made his choice. You don't need to follow him." "What did you do?" I whispered. "I kept a promise," she said. "The truth doesn't set you free, it buries you." Then she turned and vanished into the woods, leaving only her footprints pressed into the wet sand. I ran to my car and drove home with the duffel bag beside me. The money, the files, the lies, all of it humming like a curse. When I got there, I locked the door, collapsed onto the couch, and tried to catch my breath. That's when I noticed the red light blinking on my answering machine. One new message. I pressed play. Mark's voice. "Claire, If you get this, it means I didn't make it. Don't trust anyone, not Harris, not Elena. The money isn't what you think. It's theirs. And they'll kill you for it. The message cut off with a splash. And in the silence that followed, I realized, the sound wasn't static. It was water. I replayed Mark's message over and over until my hands started to shake. His voice was distant, frightened, like a man speaking from the edge of a nightmare. It's theirs, he said. Theirs. Not hers. Not his. Plural. There were more people involved. The rain hadn't stopped by morning. It came down in sheets, drowning out the world beyond my windows. I didn't sleep. Every sound made me jump, the hum of the fridge, the groan of the floorboards. I kept expecting someone to knock, or worse, to try the door. When Jake arrived around noon, I was half delirious from fear and caffeine. He took one look at me and said, "You look like hell." "Then you're seeing clearly," I said, handing him the duffel bag. "This is what Mark died for." He opened it slowly, whistled low. "Jesus, Claire. You could buy half the town with this. It's not ours. It's blood money." He started flipping through the folder, eyes narrowing. "These are insurance files, yeah, but the signatures don't match. And these payout accounts, these aren't company ledgers. They're offshore. Cayman Islands, Panama." He trailed off. "Your husband was laundering money." I sank onto the couch, staring at the wall. "He was trying to protect me," I said. "He thought he could fix it before they found out." Jake leaned forward. "Claire, listen to me. Whoever's behind this isn't done. If Elena's still out there, she's scared, or she's being controlled. Either way, we need to go to the feds, not the local cops." I hesitated. "Harris is missing. She might have killed him." Jake looked up sharply. "Might. I saw her at the lake," I said. "Right before he vanished." He rubbed his face, muttering something under his breath. Then he said, "Okay. We'll go tonight. But first we find out what theirs means." He spent the next few hours digging through the files. I made coffee and tried to focus on anything but the sound of the rain. Around 4, he looked up suddenly. "Claire, do you know this name?" He turned the page toward me. It was a document stamped with the logo of Lakeview Development Group. The same company that had been trying to buy out half the town's lakefront property. I recognized the signature at the bottom, Detective Robert Harris. Jake exhaled. He wasn't investigating Mark. He was protecting him. They were partners. My throat went dry. And Elena? He flipped another page. A transfer record. The same date, September 14th. Money sent from Lakeview Development to E. Morales. She was the courier, Jake said. She moved the cash between them. Everything clicked. The late nights. The secret phone. The guilt in Mark's eyes. He hadn't been cheating. He'd been trying to keep me away from whatever Harris had gotten him into. Then Jake's laptop beeped. He turned the screen toward me. The town's local crime blotter had just updated. Detective Robert Harris found dead in Willow Lake. Authorities suspect foul play. I felt my stomach twist. "She did kill him," I whispered. Jake frowned. "Or someone made it look that way." Before I could respond, headlights cut across the window. A car pulled into the driveway, slow, deliberate. My chest tightened. Jake moved to the window, careful not to be seen. "2 people," he murmured. "One tall, one shorter. They're just sitting there." Then the porch light flicked on by itself. I grabbed the duffel bag and stuffed it under the floorboard vent behind the couch. Jake drew his pocket knife, pointless against a gun, but it was something. The knock came. 3 sharp raps. "Mrs. Thompson," a woman's voice called. Calm. Measured. "We just want to talk." "Elena." Jake mouthed, "Don't open it." I didn't. But the next sound was worse, a window breaking in the back room. The alarm that wasn't supposed to work started screaming. I ran for the stairs as Jake shouted, "Go!" I barely made it to the top before hearing the struggle below, boots scraping, a body hitting the floor, then silence. I froze. The air smelled like gunpowder. Footsteps. Slow. Coming up the stairs. I ducked into the guest room and held my breath. Through the crack in the door, I saw a shadow move across the hallway. Then a voice, low and cold. "You shouldn't have listened to the message, Claire." I knew that voice. It wasn't Elena. It was Mark. At first, I thought I was dreaming again. My heart slammed so hard against my ribs I couldn't breathe. Mark's voice, steady, familiar, impossible. I stepped out from behind the door, my shaking hand gripping the doorknob. Mark. He stood at the end of the hallway, soaked from the rain, hair plastered to his forehead, eyes hollowed by something darker than fear. He looked alive, but not the man I buried. He smiled faintly. I told you not to trust anyone. I couldn't speak. Words dissolved into disbelief. You're dead, I whispered. He shook his head. Not dead. Just disappeared. I backed away, the room spinning. They found your body. That wasn't me, he said quietly. They needed someone to find. Harris arranged it. He thought it would buy me time. My pulse thudded in my ears. Buy you time for what? To disappear with the money, he said. But you found it first. There it was, the truth sharp as a blade. He stepped closer, his voice low, almost gentle. You were never supposed to get involved, Claire. I kept you safe for as long as I could. Safe? I spat. You faked your death, lied to me, and now people are dead because of you. He stopped moving. His expression shifted, guilt, sorrow, resignation. You don't understand. They wanted it all, Claire. The money, the insurance records, the proof. Harris was dirty. Elena was working for him. But when she realized what they'd done to Miguel, her own husband, she turned on us both. I ran before she could finish the job. My throat tightened. Then why come back? He hesitated. Because you weren't supposed to find the message. And now they'll come for you too. Downstairs, a floorboard creaked. Mark tensed. It's her, he whispered. Before I could react, the gunshot split the air. The mirror beside me shattered, showering the floor in glittering glass. Mark fell back, gripping his shoulder. Elena stepped into view at the base of the stairs, her expression calm, rainwater dripping from her coat. You always were predictable, Mark. Her voice carried no anger, just exhaustion. I dropped to my knees beside him. Stop this. It's over. She raised the gun. No, Claire. It never ends. He killed Miguel. Harris covered it up. I just finished what they started. Mark coughed, blood staining his shirt. You don't know what you're talking about, he gasped. Harris shot Miguel. I tried to save him. Elena's hand trembled slightly. For the first time, her certainty cracked. Then why did you run? Because I knew you'd never believe me, Mark said. And I was right. The room was silent but for the storm outside. Thunder rolled over the lake like a heartbeat. I moved before I could think, grabbed the fallen flashlight from the dresser and swung. It hit Elena's wrist, and the gun skittered across the floor. She lunged at me, and we both crashed into the hallway wall. The struggle was frantic, breathless, her hands clawing for the gun, my vision blurring with panic. Then Jake's voice, hoarse, desperate, from the stairs, Claire, move. A second later, another shot rang out. Elena froze, eyes wide. She stumbled back, the front of her coat blooming dark red. She looked at me one last time and whispered, he lied to both of us. Then she collapsed. Jake dropped the gun, shaking. You okay? I looked down at Mark. His breathing was ragged, his face pale. I just wanted to start over, he whispered. For both of us. I held his hand, tears blurring everything. You should have told me the truth. He smiled faintly. Some truths don't save you, Claire. They drown you. And then his hand went still. Outside, the sirens began to rise, the sound of a town waking to another tragedy. 2 weeks later, they drained part of Willow Lake. Divers recovered 2 guns, a burned wallet, and a body confirmed to be Detective Harris. The money went into federal custody. Jake sold the story to a national paper but changed all our names. Sometimes, I still drive out to the lake. The fog rolls low, the water perfectly calm, pretending it never swallowed anyone at all. People in town say Willow Lake is cursed. That once it takes something from you, it never gives it back. But they're wrong. It gives something, just not what you want. It gives you silence. And silence can be the cruelest truth of all.